everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful December and your Christmas is going really, really well. I got to see my niece and nephews for the first time and it was so beautiful. So I hope you're having a wonderful holiday. For this part of my series, I'm going to talk about how I made the decision to go from finance to counseling and the decisions that have led me here up until this moment. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thank you. Welcome back to my series. Today we're going to talk about my life as a secondary school student in Nigeria, which was really phenomenal and I really had a good time growing in that environment. Some of it I think was a bit tragic, but overall it was quite nice. I think the experience of being a secondary school student in Nigeria and then coming to America and experiencing college life set me up for success, but it also had its problems or things that were not so great about it. And today I'm going to share some of those things with you. Beginning with just secondary school generally in Nigeria, I'll explain to you what the education system looks like. So in Nigeria, in just 3, which would be 7th, 8th, 9th grade in the US, you take this placement test, right? And it's supposed to give you a sense of where your strengths would allow you to be successful. And so I placed into the arts because I loved government, I loved literature, and I liked just generally English. So, and my math was not very strong, I have to say that as well. So I was like, okay, I'm comfortable enough with these subjects, government, history, economics, so I will do well here. And so in senior school, which is high school, I was an art student, and art students usually they have very limited career paths in Nigeria. It's either you became a lawyer, you did like mass communications, or you became an economist. One of those 3 things. I think even becoming an economist was not really, something that we're taught to do. But those were the 3 things. Really, becoming a lawyer was like 80% of what people were allowed to choose. Parents especially wanted their children to become lawyers. So I was going down the path of, hey, I'm going to become a lawyer and I'm going to fight injustice in Nigeria. So that was my idea of what success would look like, and that was what I prepped for. So I didn't really worry about my math too much because I was like, well, I don't really need to know this. I'm going to become a lawyer and I can sort of ignore this part of myself. But little did I know, a new administrator had different plans for us and she put our scores on the door one day and I had failed math, obviously. And it was very traumatic. It was something I really had to overcome. I went to therapy for this because it affected my idea of failure and what it meant to be successful. Because to have your weakness displayed like that so publicly is very traumatizing for anybody. So that was part of my educational journey and my healing as a student, because it didn't just go away, right? I didn't suddenly start feeling confident in my ability to do math, which was why when I was informed that I would actually be going to study business in America, I was afraid because I was not sure or confident about my math. I was scared, I was worried, I was like, you people don't love me. You don't love me and you don't want me to be successful, right? But I wrote the SATs, I passed, gave me a wonderful scholarship, and so I went to Howard University. So I was oriented towards law school, I guess you can tell from the story I've shared. And so coming to America and being told like, hey, to become a lawyer, you have to do this first degree and then do a second degree, which is going to law school, I was a bit shocked. So I wanted to study English and history, which was what I was hoping to do. But my siblings quickly informed me that, you need a job after graduating. And I had done economics in undergrad. Well, I had done economics in high school, secondary school. And so I was like, okay, I can study econ because I was trying to run away from math. And my sister was like, there's more math in econ than there is math in accounting. So study accounting. And so that's how I chose accounting as my major, right? And that's how I applied to Howard University School of Business. I applied to a couple schools. At the end of the day, it was between Howard University and Temple. And Howard University gave me more financial aid. And so I went to Howard. That was it. It wasn't very crazy. It wasn't rocket science in any way. So that's how I went from wanting to fight injustice in Nigeria as a lawyer to wanting to study English and history to changing my mind to economics and then finally landing in accounting, which was my freshman year major at Howard. So this was a testament to my strengths, because when I got to Howard and I took my applied calculus class, because I tested into applied calculus, and my very first test, actually, I actually failed that test. And I was scared. All the emotions that came with failing and not doing well, they just came back, and it was so frightening. I was worried. I was like, I can't do this. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to be successful. I have to go back to Nigeria. I'm scared. I'm afraid. But I had a wonderful professor and I had a wonderful counselor. And the two people who I was able to lean on a lot on campus were those two people. My professor, my applied calculus professor, he helped me gain a good understanding of what we're trying to do. And so I went to his office hours after I failed that exam. And I went to talk to him like, hey, see, I struggled here and I failed. I would like some help getting a better understanding of this concept. And so I passed. My next test, I did very well. I aced it, actually. I did great. And that became a very rewarding moment for me, because I saw that I could take something I've learned, fail it, and then be successful in it again, And so that was my experience for the rest of the semester. I was able to not only overcome my fear through deliberate interventions, but I was able to work on myself so much so that I started to teach applied calculus to my classmates. And this experience was very rewarding, very enriching, and it altered my brain's understanding of myself as a person, right? It altered my brain's experience of what it meant for me to go from, oh my God, I'm not good at this, I should ignore it, to actually give it a chance and see if you get better if you try and do some things differently. And that is the entire experience of learning, right? You need to be able to say, I'm not doing this really well, what can I do differently? How can I change? How can I make this better, right? And that's not something that's taught in the Nigerian educational system. This is a very American way of thinking where you're optimizing for growth, optimizing for better. And that's not something I was familiar with, because it's not something that we embrace as a society in general. And that's just the truth. So that's how I went from lawyer to English and history to economics to accounting at Howard University. It was a wonderful experience to be in a foreign country, but for me, I was homesick. I was missing home, I was missing my friends, I was missing the life I would have had I gone to law school in Nigeria, because it was a straight path. And I thought like I was missing out, like FOMO, I was missing out on this life that would have been better. And I want to say that is a normal emotion to feel. That is normal for a teenager who is transitioning. Our parents are not aware of what it's like to say, oh, I'm having a growth spur, and it feels uncomfortable. They're just like, do it hard, don't complain, you have it better. And while it's true that you have it better, it doesn't mean it's any easier, right? It doesn't make it doesn't invalidate the emotions that you're feeling around that experience. And so that was my understanding of my situation. I had this severe traumatic experience for me, and it altered the way I thought about myself, the way I thought about success. But coming to Howard, having good teachers who helped me see that you can grow, you can change. And something worth mentioning is I was taking intro to psychology at this time. Intro to psychology for non-psych majors. And we talked about having a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And for this, it opened my eyes to think, oh, it's my idea of what failure is that holds me back. maybe it's people see me fail that's more traumatizing for me, and it's not just failure by itself, because a lot of the innovations that we love today went through different seasons of failure. So maybe that's something that should be normalized. And so I took all of those experiences in my freshman year, and I've held them for as long as I've been a student and as long as I've lived, because it's something remarkable to go from not knowing to knowing and understanding what it's like to change, right? We're going through the theory of change, and you see this in all stages of my life, in all stages of my career up until this moment, right? I want people to believe that they are capable of making mistakes and then succeeding. Like, it's not impossible, and it's not something to be ashamed of, because there's a lot of shame tied to failure, you know. So I hope this was helpful. This is the very first part of my series. So I really loved sharing my life from as a secondary school student in Nigeria. And I want you to pay attention to something. It wasn't a perfect straight line. It was very imperfect. I made many decisions before getting to, okay, I'm going to study accounting. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about how I actually ended up studying finance, right? I think any pronunciation is correct. So if I use them interchangeably, I'm saying the same thing, really. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to the first episode in this series. I hope you stay. I hope you subscribe, like, and come back again for more informative videos. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.